Hello, my name is Major Brian Sickham. I'm an officer in the United States Air Force and a graduate of the Air Force's Aircraft Mishap Investigation course, or AMIC. And I'm making a short video today to demonstrate an idea that I've had for the use of mobile-based augmented reality techniques for the purpose of aircraft mishap investigation education, aka a sort of virtual crash lab. I'd like to start out by noting that this video is a companion to an article I've written on the same subject. I'll link the article in the comments of the video, but if you have already read the article and you're coming here from the article, I apologize. There's going to be a fair amount of overlap because I also want this video to be a sort of standalone product on its own where you can watch the whole video and still kind of get a feel for what I'm talking about, and then the article will kind of delve into some more of the details and some additional benefits and potential uses of this technology that I don't have time to go into in the video here. So before I get started, I want to talk a little bit about some of the terminology I'm going to be using. There's not too much, but first one's big one is augmented reality and augmented reality versus virtual reality. So augmented reality is really starting to pick up steam and kind of get a little more mainstream, and there's more applications out there for it, but it's still not as many people are familiar with it. So to start virtual reality, I think most people have heard of, and especially with things like, Google Cardboard and Gear VR and that sort of thing coming on that are getting more popular. So virtual reality in this context is, completely computer generated world. You put on the virtual reality goggles and all you see is what's being generated for you to see. Augmented reality is overlaying computer generated information of some sort on the real world. The most mainstream popular example of this is Pokemon Go. Everybody knows Pokemon Go. So yeah, you look through your camera and you see this little Pokemon creature that's not really there, but you can see it in your camera as if it were there, and try and capture it. So there's a lot of different ways augmented reality can be presented. There's a lot of different ways it can be implemented. So the way that I'm showing here is through a mobile device, but there's other devices out there such as Microsoft HoloLens and that sort of thing. So it's a very fast-growing field right now, but the entry level is very low, just like the basic virtual reality coming online again with Google Cardboard and the like. Augmented reality is also, you can do it with mobile-based devices, which is really key to a lot of this, as I'm going to get into. Second thing I'm going to talk about is trackers. So when I talk about trackers, so you can see in front of me I got kind of this crazy abstract art looking thing here in front of me, as well as this little box here. These are two different types of trackers. So this is what's referred to as just a flat tracker or plane tracker, and then this is a cube tracker. There's other kinds that you can use, but these are all I really need for this. Now, it's all crazy like this because this is actually a computer-generated image that's specifically built for augmented reality tracking. The different colors and shapes and lines make it very easy for the software to look at this and figure out exactly what its orientation is and that sort of thing, which will be important, as you'll see later. But there are other things that you can use too. You can create a tracker off of just about anything that has enough sufficient image detail. And as I get into the video, you'll see occasionally I've been having some problems with this cube tracker, and I just threw this together in the matter of a half hour. So I could probably optimize the cube a little better so that tracking works a little bit better than it was, but I think it'll work well enough that you'll see what I'm getting at here and what I'm trying to show. So those are that. But again, so very basic. And I also want to point out that while I have a physical piece of paper here for the flat tracker in particular, if this image were displayed on, say, an iPad screen, it would work just as well. So when I start talking about setting up courseware and that sort of thing, if, for example, the courseware were provided on an iPad or a tablet of some sort, and you flip the page, and this is one of the PDF pages, this is an image like this, it'll track just as well. It doesn't have to be an actual physical piece of paper, but for our purposes, that's all we really need. Also, before we begin, we want to point out, kind of touched on a little bit, but the equipment needed for this. It's nothing crazy. This is my 2-year-old Galaxy S7 phone. That's just my normal day-to-day phone. I do have a Gear VR headset here, just because it came with the phone. So that's the one I have. But what I'm about to show, it would work just as well with a $20 Google cardboard viewer, you know, that you can get from just about anywhere on Amazon. You can find them for extremely cheaply. There's really no complicated equipment to make this happen on the user side of things. So once the courseware were to be developed, this is the type of equipment, you know, you're looking at it. You can certainly get phones even cheaper than a Galaxy S7, especially if you're getting them secondhand. And then a $20 headset, you could provide enough equipment for, say, 20 students on the order of a few $1,000s, certainly. So not a big investment on the user equipment side of things. It's all very, very simple. And with that, the simplicity side of things too, actual development of the application, it's surprising how easy it really is. So, you know, as I get into it and you kind of see how it works, it looks, at least I personally think it looks fairly impressive, and you look at it and you're like, wow, that's really neat. I'll tell you, so this is not the first augmented reality app I've made, but the first one that I did make was pretty much identical to this, where, you know, just, you know, you'll see the usage, but it's pretty much identical to this app. And I built that app in an afternoon. And I did it after watching a YouTube video tutorial about how to do it, and I'd never touched any of the software involved before that. So I built the app in a game engine called Unity. The AR tracking is provided through a package called Vuforia, and I downloaded those and started from scratch, having never done any of this before, and I built it in an afternoon. They make it so simple. So certainly, you know, you'll see what I have is very, very basic right now, and certainly if this idea were to be implemented on a bigger scale, it'll be more polished and more developed, but it's nothing cosmic. It's really not that hard. The final thing I want to mention is you'll see the 3D models that I've used for this. They're basic. They're actually, you know, 3D models that someone created in a modeling program and built these things and made them 3D models. But the ultimate idea, that's just to demonstrate the usability of it. The ultimate idea is to actually capture real crash sites, real parts, and capture them and turn them into 3D models, which would then be put into this. And that process as well is surprisingly simple. So when I was at AMIC, I had some of this software available to me, some of these apps, and there was an app, discontinued now, but there was an app at the time called 123D Catch from Autodesk, where literally you just walked around what you wanted to capture, taking a bunch of pictures and upload it to their servers, and it would pump out a 3D model. And I'll show you, I have, in the article, I have a picture of a capture I did at the time of an A-10 wing that was part of a crash scene that it looks amazing. You know, it's fully textured, everything else. Now, with that, you know, I mentioned that particular app, you know, uploads to the cloud and it crunches the numbers in there. But there are packages out there where you buy the software to put on a computer of your own that will do everything. So in terms of, you know, if we start thinking about privilege, you know, safety privilege and that sort of thing, there's ways that the process is called photogrammetry. That photogrammetry can be done without having to send it off to a third party, and you can do it in-house and protect all that information. But ultimately, the idea is you can capture anything you want from a single part all the way up to a full crash scene. If you go onto YouTube and you search some of this, you know, 3D model capturing type stuff, you can see people take, you know, commercial drones and they'll fly around a building. It's actually getting somewhat popular in the real estate market now. You know, you can fly around a building or a house or whatever, and you can capture all the pictures that you need and turn it into a 3D model that then, you know, you put in a 3D model viewer on a website and people can look all around the house in 3D. So this stuff is very, very, very accessible, very easy to get into. So that's just kind of some of the things I want to knock out of the way right at the beginning. So without further ado, we'll get into it. I'm going to move this guy out of the way for a minute so I can focus on here. So to kind of demonstrate, and again, while I'm doing this, keep in mind that the ultimate idea would be to utilize these VR goggles to have this app. I'm not going to use them now because it makes it difficult to capture. I could do a screen capture of, you know, the video, but then you don't really get a sense for what's happening in the real world as well as on the screen. So instead I just made an app that displays on the screen itself, and I'm going to hold up the phone in front of the camera so you can see me manipulating things in the real world as well as see what's reflected on the screen. But ultimately the idea is, hey, this goes into a virtual reality headset, augmented reality app, and it really is like you're looking at things in the real world and you're manipulating them, and they just look like they're there. So just keep that in mind as I demonstrate some of these things. So the first thing I have here is, so you can see it's a basic little T-38 kind of pseudo crash scene that I set up. As I go in here, you can see it gets closer, and the video doesn't really capture it very well in terms of it. I don't know what it is about. I've been playing around with this camera setup, and it kind of makes things look like they're misaligned. But rest assured, when you're actually here in person, it looks like this T-38, like I'm pointing my camera at something that's sitting right here on the table. It looks like I have a little model of this crash scene and the T-38 sitting here on the table. And that effect is even more pronounced when it's actually implemented in the virtual reality goggle type setup like I'm talking about. So I can sit here and I can then manipulate this paper, or I can manipulate obviously the camera itself and kind of look all around and get a feel for, okay, how, it's like having kind of a God's eye view of the overall crash site and being able to kind of look at and see and get a feel for how everything is oriented. And of course, those of you who've been through either the Air Force Mishap Investigation course, the FAA's course, that context provides a lot of clues, and how everything is laid out, and they talk a lot about that. So that is one pretty neat way of, the flat tracker works really well for these overview type scenarios. But now let's say there's a particular part that they want to show you. There's some key piece to the wreck that the instructor wants to demonstrate, like, hey, if you look at these markings, these pieces, whatnot. You can still use flat tracker for that, but it doesn't allow you to, obviously if I pick up this piece of paper and flip it over, okay, now I lost tracking. I'm not going to be able to look at the bottom of this T-38 when I flip the tracker over. That is where the cube tracker comes into play. So I'm going to switch scenes here a little bit on the app. All right, so now I've got this part here, and now I've got my cubic tracker, and you can see, oops, if you can, if I move the camera, there we go, now you can see. So it's almost like I'm holding the part itself. And so now I've got this cubic tracker that's got that tracker, texture, I guess, for lack of a better word, on all sides. And now I can pick this up, and I can look at any side of this part that I need to, and I can look at as much detail as I need to and sit there and manipulate it as if I'm holding the thing. And the other thing is, it all depends on the scale of the 3D model. So there's no reason I couldn't also make a model or bring in and import a model of an entire aircraft and sit here and hold the entire airplane in my hands just like this. Or I could, go the other way around and have it scanned at, this teeny tiny bolt, but have the bolt, scaled up to a size where, again, I'm holding it up, I'm looking at it. And certainly if I put a little more time into this app, it wouldn't be hard at all. I could even adjust the scaling on the fly and make this bigger or smaller as needed on the fly. So overall, that's kind of the app portion of this. So the idea is, hey, having gone through the course, having done this before, a big portion, it's a month-long course, but a big portion of that is teaching, how to write the report, how to work with the online databases and that sort of thing that safety officers use, and a lot of admin type stuff that frankly can be taught anywhere. It doesn't need to be taught there at Kirtland. So you've got, classes of 25, 30 folks going out to Kirtland for a month, spending a large portion of that time doing things that they could have been doing home station. I still strongly value the in-person instructor. I'm not saying make it a CBT, but the Air Force already utilizes roadshow type courses for other, or roadshow type process for other courses where the instructor comes out. You can do the same sort of thing with most of what the safety school does. But of course, the crash lab is, kind of the crown jewel of the whole course. And you can't bring the crash lab to another base. But with augmented reality, I feel you could ultimately bring, I still think there's a lot of value to hands-on training. So certainly my intention would not be to eliminate all of the in-person courses, but you could educate, I feel, a larger portion of the population. You could get more safety trained officers by implementing some augmented reality and roadshow type courses into the safety course curriculum, and still get a really good value and be able to really teach people and let them see the things that they need to see. And again, there's other advantages to this approach that I'll go into more detail in the article, in terms of preserving evidence and that sort of thing, and I'll talk to all of that. So yeah, if you found this interesting at all, please go take a look at the link in the description of the video here. Check out the article that I've written, and I'm certainly going to be submitting this to some of the, they used to call it the Ideas Program, they've changed it now, Airmen Powered by Innovation, and then the Air Force Spark competition. So I'll be putting this up the chain and hopefully get some good traction, and if nothing else, I hope this prompts some good thought on how we can go forward and continue to improve our mishap investigation education. I think it's really an important thing, and I hope that the ideas I presented here can be of some benefit to that. Thanks for watching.